Welcome guys, this is Trey Dixon, Executive Director of True North Ministries. And at True North Ministries, we love to shoot and we hope you do as well. But we also want safety to be absolutely paramount. So whether you're an experienced shooter or this is your first time, we're glad you're here. But we definitely have some safety rules that we need to go over to make sure to apply to keep everyone safe, you including. So let's get into it. First of all, what you should have received is our standard SOP, our standard operating procedures. And we have all of our rules outlined in this, but we're going to go over some of the big ones. First of all, always keep your firearm pointed in a safe direction. And that safe direction is one of two things. One, always up, just like this, or always downrange and only downrange. So if your weapon is not downrange, it should be up just like this. So when you're walking towards the range, clip in one hand, gun pointed up like this, then it can go down when you're at the range. When you're done, it goes back up and then back on the table. And we'll cover this in a little more detail here in a minute. But guns always go in a safe direction, either up or down range. That's it. Second thing, always keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot. So once again, as we're carrying it, my finger is above the trigger, or you can even keep them below, but never on the trigger until we're actually on the firing line ready to shoot. So in a safe position, finger off the trigger. Once you're on the line, then you can engage the trigger. Once again, when you come back, gun is in a safe position, fingers never on the trigger. Last thing, always keep the firearm unloaded until you're actually ready to shoot. So when we have our loading line, you'll have your clip of your magazine, you'll have your gun in a safe position, finger off the trigger. You'll have them separate. You'll approach the firing line. You'll then load and you can shoot. When you're done, you'll eject the magazine or your clip and you'll return. Once again, finger off the trigger, gun unloaded, slide open. That way everything is always safe. So remember the big three. We always go in a safe direction, guns up or down range. We absolutely never have our finger on the trigger until we're ready to shoot. And then thirdly, we never have a loaded firearm until we're actually on the firing line ready to fire. So those are the big three. Moving forward to True North Ministries, we never want to have any loaded firearms anywhere on the premises until we're actually on the firing line ready to shoot. So thank you and please observe that. Next thing too, we have what's called the RSOs, our range safety officers. We are actually nationally certified range safety officers. We will always have at least one RSO at every one of our events when we have shooting occurring. These are the guys that will be in charge. They will be directing the range, and please listen to them in their commands. We're going to go over some of those commands and what to listen for, but please know that our RSOs have full control of the range. And at any time, if they see anyone who's not observing any of these rules or being unsafe, you will be asked to leave. This is not us being harsh. This is us trying to protect everyone's safety, including yours. So please listen to the RSOs. They will be in full control of the range at any time. Okay? Next thing, RSO's duties. Theirs once again is to keep everyone safe. The RSOs are also going to be in charge of calling when the range shooting will be starting or stopping. So you'll hear commands as range cold. Range cold means that absolutely no firearm should be loaded. If we call range cold, that means all shooting ceases, and if you're on the firing line, so if you're actually shooting and you hear range cold, at that point, you will actually stop shooting, eject your magazine, clear your firearm, and wait for further command. Okay? So when we call range cold, absolutely no shooting, and at that point, not even any loaded firearms. Okay? Once again, finger off the trigger in a safe position. So if they call range cold, when the range officer calls range hot, that means that the range is open, firing can commence, and at that point, you may go ahead and resume firing once you're down range. Okay, so once again, range cold, range hot, very, very important. Okay, next thing to cover is that all shooting is done on the firing line and the firing line only. So what you'll see is we actually have a firing line. This is what's called the load line. This is where the guns stay when they're unloaded. This is where the ammo is to be. This is where you can load any magazines. You can, if you have a bolt action, it's to always remain unloaded. Sorry, not bolt action, but a revolver. It's to always stay unloaded here on the load line. okay? If you have magazines, semi-automatics, you can load your magazines, load your clips on the load line, and then you can take that clip once it's loaded, once again, in a safe position, and when they call range hot, now you approach the firing line, and when you're in position, then you can load, then you can fire. All firing happens on the firing line, loading happens on the load line, okay? So we have two very important distinguishing factors here, load line and then firing line. And the RSOs will let you know exactly which one is which so that you'll know and they'll be appropriately marked and designated. Nextly, the RSOs will require all shooters on the range to be given any additional training. So if we see anyone who's not observing these rules or needs a little additional training, that's great. Once again, we love new shooters. So if you need a little extra additional training, grab one of the RSOs. Let them know this is your first time. We're happy to help you. We would love to encourage you and help you in this process. Right, next rule also is we have designated pistol range, designated rifle ranges. Absolutely no rifles on the pistol range. Once again, the RSOs will let you know, and we'll have these as designated areas, but have to have the appropriate gun on the appropriate range. Next thing, very, very important. Every shooter must have eyes and ears. These can be sunglasses if you don't have safety glasses, but every shooter must wear eyeglasses, some kind of eye protection on the firing line. Completely suggest that you wear them the entire time while you're out here. Second thing, also have to have approved ear protection. Once again, has to be on the firing line. Highly recommend it the entire time you're out here. If you want to wear the foam earplugs, we do have these provided if you don't have your own. Also recommend full-blown earmuffs. It does get very loud out here with the rifles and all the pistols going, but these are required on the firing line at all times. Next, when you hear cease fire, some of our commands, you're going to hear cease fire. That goes to a range cold. Cease fire, that's when you stop. Once again, eject it. That means the range cold. There is no longer to be any shooting at that time. And then the next thing on here, no open or concealed carry when you're on the range. Guys, almost all of our RSOs, we're concealed carry. We will not be carrying when we're here. We will not be carrying on the range. So even if you have your concealing carry, there's absolutely no loaded firearms at the range except for the RSOs and those on the firing line, okay? Very, very important. So even if you have your concealing carry, please take it out. Please unload everything. No loaded weapons except on the firing line. Last thing, the RSOs on duty will be supplied with first aid kits. So if something does happen, please contact the RSO. We have access to first aid and medical treatment, okay? Guys, thank you. Last thing here, couple of range commands. First thing, like we said, cease fire. That means absolutely stop. Range is then going cold. You will hear an RSO call cease fire. We'll normally announce that 2 to 3 times. Once everyone's ceased, we'll call range cold. That point, that's when everyone should be completely unloaded, fingers off triggers, magazines ejected, or having your cylinders open. Everything should be unloaded and be returning to the load table, okay? Then after that, we have down range. Often when we call range cold, it is because we need to go down range to either check some of the targets, reset targets, etc. When you hear down range, that means somebody is going down, so absolutely not, no one's even to be touching a firearm at that point. Every gun at that point should be on the load line, opened. And by the way, when guns are on the load line, if you have a semi-automatic, they need to be back where they're actually open so the slide is locked, so that all of our RSOs can visually very quickly tell that a firearm is unloaded and safe, okay? So it has to be with the slide action opened. If you have a rifle, they need to, once again, slide action opened, magazines ejected so that we can very quickly look at it, which also means that when they're on the table, they need to be with the action opened on the table where they're visible. So if you have a semi-automatic, it cannot be on the table this way, it needs to be on the table this way so that it's visually, we can visually tell that it is a clean gun, okay? At that point, when you hear down range, every gun should be laying on the table, slide open, action locked, where we can visually look at it before we head down range. Okay, so guys, here's some of the safety rules. Those are some of the safety rules that we have. We're so excited that you're here. We're looking forward to it. Have a great day. Let's be safe and have fun.